Right, what's up, everybody? So, look, man, let's get right into it. So, now, after Canelo's last performance, Canelo and Terence Crawford, they faced off right after that Canelo fight. And, Terence Crawford appeared to be, he had some decent size. He looked taller, of course, than Canelo, and everybody saying, like, oh, yeah, Terence Crawford got some size. He's got the size to compete with Canelo. And of course, after Canelo's last garbage-ass performance, everybody's saying like, yeah, Terence Crawford definitely has a chance to beat Canelo. And, I'm one of them, bro. I'm one of them. After what I saw from Canelo, I had to rethink this whole shit, bro, and just say that, yeah, you know what? Maybe Terence Crawford could give him a shot. Do I think Terence Crawford is going to win? I don't think so, man. But there's a lot of things in play here, right? There's a lot of things that I was thinking about, to why Terence Crawford might get a win over Canelo. See, it's no secret here, right, that Terence Crawford is Turkey's fucking favorite boxer, bro. He's like the spoiled one of the bunch, and for some weird reason, Turkey's got this man crush on Terence Crawford, right? So how far that man crush goes, who the fuck knows, man? You've seen pictures of Turkey and Terence Crawford holding hands and shit, which is just wild as fuck to me, but it is what it is, right? You guys could make your own speculations on that shit. But like I said, right, Terence Crawford is Turkey's favorite fighter, and this is a Turkey event, you know what I'm saying? They're gonna be fighting over there in Saudi, which I think that shit, it kind of like takes this fight down a little bit, bro. It seems like the fights over there, they're not really lit like the fights over here in the States, and it just, every time people fight over there, bro, it just kind of takes something out of it. But, but I was thinking about this shit, right? Because you guys got to think about the big picture of all of this shit, right? For Turkey, what would benefit him the most, right, in this fight? Would it benefit him the most that Terence Crawford gets a win or that Canelo gets a win in this fight? And for me, the answer is it benefits him the most that Terence Crawford gets the W right here, right? So I was thinking about this shit, man. If Terence Crawford goes in there and outboxes Canelo all night, right? He doesn't really even have to engage with him too much. Just even do the skull thing, bro. I don't think Terence Crawford is going to do that shit. But even if he does do the skull thing and kind of outboxes, runs and shit, and just makes Canelo look bad the way Skull did, Terence Crawford won't get robbed. They won't rob him the way they robbed Skull, man, because Skull has no name. He did run and all that shit, but at the end of the day, I do think that he got robbed because if you realistically look at that fight, Skull did win that shit, you know what I'm saying? But I said it before, you're not going to win like that against Canelo, bro, because Canelo's a superstar, so you got to do extra shit to really knock off somebody like Canelo. You know what I'm saying? But if Terence Crawford were to come out here and do that shit, bro, best believe that they would give that decision win to Terence Crawford. And I could see this shit happening in this fight, in this Riyadh fight. I could see Terence Crawford outboxing Canelo, not really engaging with him, maybe landing more effective, cleaner punches on Canelo, and then him coasting to a decision victory. And why do I say that it benefits Turkey more that Crawford wins? Because think about this shit, bro. Canelo is signed with Turkey, right? He's got this Crawford fight, and then he has 2 more fights after this shit. What would happen if Canelo beats Crawford, in this next fight? He's going to have a big name on his resume. People are going to be saying like, oh yeah, Canelo, he took out Crawford, not a lot of casuals, this and that, not knowing that Crawford had to jump up 2 weight classes. But that's gonna give Canelo a little bit of a break, bro. A little bit of a break, so he could take on easier fights in his next 2 fights in this Turkey deal. You know what I'm saying? Just think about it. If he beats Crawford, he's gonna feel like he already accomplished something huge. When realistically it's not, bro. He's bringing this guy up 2 fucking weight classes. Realistically, Canelo should beat the brakes off of Crawford, but after what we saw in his last fight, who knows, right? People are having doubts about this shit, but realistically, he should beat Crawford. And now think about this, bro. If Canelo were to take a loss against Crawford, he's going to have to come back, or he's going to realistically want to come back and prove something. He's going to feel like he's got something to prove. you know, and his fans are gonna, the whole boxing world is gonna feel the same way. Like, hey, you know what? You just lost to Crawford. You can't just coast off and start fighting these, you know, these lower tier fighters like, you know, you've been doing, because you've been winning and you've been getting away with it. But if he loses to Crawford, he's gonna have to come back and make a statement, right? So if he loses to Crawford, man, best believe that Canelo is gonna have to come back and take some way better fights than he's been taking. Instead of all of these garbage ass cherry picks that he's been doing, he's gonna have to come back and prove something to us, you know what I'm saying? And I think that's the only way that Canelo might take like a Bivol fight. I'm not gonna say Benavidez, because there's no way Canelo's gonna take a Benavidez fight, man. Benavidez will stop Canelo at this point, bro. Anybody that's arguing this shit, bro, you pretty much don't know shit about boxing, man. Benavidez would stop Canelo. Canelo knows this shit. Canelo's team knows this shit. You know, but I could see Canelo coming back and taking a fight with Bivol. And no, I'm not saying that Benavidez is a better fighter than Bivol, or that Canelo is scared of Benavidez and not Bivol. The only difference here is that Canelo already fought Bivol and Canelo already lost to Bivol. So if he were to come back and lose to Bivol again, people ain't gonna look at it like a shock, you know what I'm saying? Like, we've seen it already. We've seen Canelo lose to Bivol. We've seen Bivol whoop Canelo's ass. But we haven't seen Canelo lose to Benavidez, and Canelo is trying to avoid that shit at all costs, right? So this is why I say that I could see Canelo taking on a fight with Bivol, but not a fight with Benavidez, you know what I'm saying? So, and you know, and Turkey, he would get more bang for his buck if Canelo comes out here and takes on one of these fights, instead of taking on the garbage ass fight that he's trying to take on with Chris Eubank Jr., which it seems like that's what he's trying to do, you know what I'm saying? And then the fourth fight, like I told y'all, bro, it's probably gonna be the winner of Jermall Charlo and Plant. I could see a Plant rematch or a Jermall Charlo fight as the fourth one. That is if Canelo beats Terence Crawford. But if Canelo loses to Terence Crawford, bro, I could see more pressure being put on him to take on better fights, you know what I'm saying? So this is why I think that Terence Crawford could pull an upset against Canelo with a decision win. I could see them over there in Riyadh gifting Crawford that decision win. As like I said, bro, that's Turkey's favorite fighter, and it benefits Turkey more that Terence Crawford beats Canelo, so it puts a little bit more pressure on Canelo. Now, boxing wise, is Terence Crawford gonna beat Canelo, man? Who the hell knows, bro? Like I said, after Canelo's last performance, man, he looked like shit. He looked super slow, bro. It wasn't even just him not being able to cut off the ring. It was just him looking super slow, bro. Like super slow. It was down to his footwork, his foot speed, his punching speed, like everything was just looking slow, man. No combinations. And yes, you could blame it on Skull that he was fucking running all night or whatever. Of course, that had something to do with it, but you guys got to remember, bro, not every fighter is just going to go out there and give Canelo the fight that he wants and stand in front of him and shit, you know, and trade off. Skull knew that was going to work in Canelo's favor. So Skull came out there, he went out there with a game plan, and he outboxed the shit out of Canelo, bro. And nobody could say that he didn't, because he outboxed the shit out of Canelo and he exposed Canelo. You know what I'm saying? He exposed Canelo's slow foot movement and, you know, maybe even his slow punching speed. I mean, and this was the first time we saw Canelo fucking swinging in the air and shit, not hitting nothing. You know, that shit was crazy as hell. But look, in my opinion, I still don't think that Terence Crawford is gonna beat Canelo, bro. I just don't know, man. I gotta see it. This one's gonna come down to the weigh-in and how big these guys are looking at the weigh-in and all that shit. And then I'll start making, you know, some final predictions for that shit. But for right now, bro, you gotta give. I'm going to give Canelo the benefit of the doubt. And I just think that there's no way a fighter like Canelo is going to be able to lose to somebody coming up 2 weight classes. You know, because, yes, after that fight, you saw them face off and they looked to be around the same size. You guys got to remember that Terence Crawford was at his full, rehydrated, walking around weight. And Canelo had to cut all the way down to 168 for that fight, for that Skull fight. You know what I'm saying? So, yes, Canelo looked a lot smaller than what he realistically is in that fight, because he had to cut all that weight. And even though he rehydrated for the fight, he didn't rehydrate to his full walking around weight, you know. And Terence Crawford was. So when it comes down to that fight, you guys got to remember, man, these guys are both going to have to cut weight. Terence Crawford looked to be around the same size as Canelo when he had already cut all that weight. So in my eyes, bro, for Terrence Crawford to get down to 168, he pretty much ain't gonna have to cut shit. You know, maybe 10 pounds, something like that. I don't know. I don't know what he's walking around at, but Canelo is gonna have to be cutting down probably like 20 pounds or some shit like that. You know what I'm saying? So yes, there is a size difference there, even though you guys didn't see it at the face-off. But there is a size difference there, man. And I just don't know if Terrence Crawford is going to be able to take that power from Canelo, man, as he's never faced anything like that, bro. He's never faced a puncher like Canelo. You know, when it comes to the power, you got to give that shit to Canelo. When it comes to the fucking experience, you got to give that shit to Canelo. When it comes to the speed, you know, the boxing, all that shit, you give that shit to Crawford. The footwork, Crawford. The defense, I don't know. They both have some pretty good defense, right? But I don't know. I'd probably have to say maybe Crawford. I ain't too sure, bro. That's kind of, I might even go even with that shit, you know? And then when you talk about these guys' chin, you got to give that shit to Canelo, bro. Canelo has a fucking iron chin. There's something you can't take away from Canelo. This guy has never really, earlier on in his career, he got rocked and it looked like they were going to stop him. But after that, you know, lately he's been showing that he has a super good chin, you know? So, and as far as Crawford, bro, he's shown us that he's been rocked. He's been rocked in a couple of his fights. He's been wobbled and this and that. So, you know, and those are against smaller fighters. So against Canelo, if Canelo lands that good shot on him, which eventually he will, bro, he's going to have to. We'll see if Crawford is going to be able to take it. You know, but that's pretty much it for me, man. Let me know what you guys thought about all this shit, man. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel, and I'll be on to the next one, man. I'm out.